Emma Kealy is the Deputy Leader of the Nationals in Victoria and the Shadow Agriculture Minister. Emma, we've heard plenty from Peter Walsh in the past in this role about the farm trespass laws, but what a concerning incident we've seen happening at Benalla's pig abattoir.
Yeah, it's very, very concerning that extremists feel like they can get away with some of these acts that, breach a lot of biosecurity requirements for our food processing businesses, but also, putting their lives on the line and creating a lot of damage to property as well and tying up police resources. So there's not really any upside of what's been happening at Benalla recently, and unfortunately Labor's weak laws around animal trespass really just don't cut the mustard when it comes to being an adequate deterrent. People are still willing to take these dangerous measures and interrupt normal business and trading.
Now, there's last I checked, 7 people had been arrested over their attempts to stop the use of gas, to bring the pigs' lives to an end at the abattoir. But I noticed in some of the commentary from the protest group, they don't seem to be deterred by the laws. They seem to be very bullish that they are determined to make this form of meat processing come to an end.
Yeah, and everybody's got a right to a view. It's not a view I believe in. I see the need for meat production in not just Victoria but internationally. It's a really important food source for so many people, and particularly when you look at how our abattoirs are managed, they are managed in line with all of the requirements, and they do the best that they possibly can. They're not shortcutting anything. They're not breaking the rules. They're trying to do the right thing. And that's why it's really frustrating for these businesses when they have people undertaking illegal activities, which is stopping them from doing what they do, and it's stopping them from, paying people their income, putting food on the table of everyday Victorians. And that's not fair, and that's exactly why the Nationals said at the time the legislation came through, they should be double the penalties for any of these sort of activities which are around animal protesters about these extremist views that they're pushing onto our local people, because there are other ways you can raise your views without having to take it into the business and interrupting production lines.
Now, I want to come back to those penalties you're talking about in a moment, but I gather you might have been heartened to hear Daniel Andrews saying yesterday, the Victorian Premier, that he's a son of a beef farmer, and as far as he knows, there have been no breaches of welfare standards at Meatworks. At least that's something positive that the Premier has said in this regard.
Yeah, but he needs to step up a little bit more, doesn't he? I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm the son of a beef farmer, a butcher, but, at the end of the day, Daniel Andrews has left agriculture and left people who live in country Victoria high and dry. He rolls out this line about his links to Wangaratta. He was there for a couple of years. He's not a country person. A country person wouldn't be treating country Victorian people in the way that he does. He wouldn't turn his back on agriculture to do little sneaky deals with the Animal Justice Party to get votes, to get re-elected, rather than putting the people of regional Victoria and putting agriculture first. This is where the money's made in the state of Victoria. It's why he's got so much money to spend in Melbourne. We need to see a much better commitment to actually support people in country Victoria, not just turn up and roll out the Wangaratta line when it suits him. We actually need to see runs on the ground, see appropriate penalties for these animal protesters, and see real support and investment for country Victorians.
Now, those penalties you're talking about that I think you moved in the last Parliament, were they extending to processing facilities in terms of trying to deter trespassers, or was it primarily about people going onto farms?
No, it's for any part of the agricultural process. So it's on the farm, it's in our abattoirs, and we have, in my part of the electorate, Love a Duck, where we have a processing plant, but we also have a lot of duck farms as well. It's really just to deter this extreme activity and the breaches that come with it, biosecurity breaches. We have enormous requirements put upon our farmers to make sure they do the right thing. We need to make sure appropriate penalties are in place so that when somebody deliberately comes on your property, which is often next to your own home, and they trespass, they damage property, they scare animals, that they are doing, incredibly dangerous things for their own well-being, but also then tying up police resources who have to come on site. It's simply not fair, and Daniel Andrews needs to step up, double these penalties, admit he got it wrong, and start looking at, supporting regional Victoria rather than do these little backroom deals with people who are extremists who just want to shut down animal production in Victoria.
Now, you just mentioned duck farming earlier in backroom deals. Just lastly, I know this impacts people in your electorate of Lowan. The inquiry underway at the moment into duck hunting. Do we already know the outcome of that inquiry, given the composition of who's on it?
Yeah, it's very concerning that it's really been stacked by people who we know want to put an end to duck hunting in Victoria. So the Animal Justice Party, the Greens and Labor all dominate, have the numbers when it comes to this inquiry. But it doesn't mean that we can't get the evidence on the table and make sure that everybody's voice is heard when it comes to duck hunting. So I would really invite all of your listeners who've got an interest in duck hunting to provide a submission to the Parliament of Victoria. Submissions are now open, and we'll ensure that those views are recorded in the final report. There will be a majority report, but we will likely also put together a minority report. So we want to make sure that everybody has their voice heard when it comes to the future of duck hunting in Victoria.
Emma Kealy is the Shadow Agriculture Minister and Deputy Leader of the Nationals. Thanks so much for joining us today on Flow.
Thanks, Ricky.